Mist of Tuna Scythe. And I think that that has the advantage of being able to save a few more seconds. So I think PIME may be in really good shape to compete versus Echo here, as long as they can stay consistent.
Most definitely. We've been looking at the rise of Holy Paladins, especially in dungeons like this. So how well Echo, with a full day yesterday to be able to practice, prepare, maybe alter some of their strategies to account for this compositional, this meta shift that's been ongoing, is definitely something that we want to be able to keep our eyes on. This is going to be the first round of our upper finals right now between PIME and Echo in Mists.
Yeah, it's one of the scariest things about being in the same tournament as a team like Echo is even if you come up with something cool, there's a good chance that Echo can assimilate that strategy and perhaps even improve on it further within the space of a couple days. And so you really don't have that long of a huge advantage when you have like a meta-breaking strategy. But I mean, we'll get to see that. This is going to be our first time potentially seeing Echo using this strategy, and we'll get to see how well and what further evolutions they have on it.
Yeah, I also misspoke saying that Echo uses the Windwalker variant of it. They actually use the DK variant of it with Shadow Priest Mage and Holy Paladin.
Okay.
So it definitely is a little bit of a difference between like what the DK would provide versus what the Moon can potentially bring as well. So that's going to be interesting to see because Echo should be faster during like the maze phase and like the trash after Mistcaller with all the larva and whatnot. The DK should be able to provide a lot more damage there. Whereas on the bosses, the Moonkin should be able to at least be substantially better than the DK with potential to burn Mistcaller before the thing, which may be a bingo, Drat knows.
It's interesting because we have, we've talked in this dungeon before about how the first boss burn has been a kind of fulcrum point, and that's not the case anymore with this comp, right? The first boss is kind of a foregone conclusion. You're going to get that thing dead within its first phase in the Ashen Hallow and the Wings or whatever. But now it's a question of that second boss, whether you can actually skip the final guessing game. And here we go. We actually do have the Moonkin from Echo as well.
Echo
so
had to swap it up.
They are going to be playing the exact same comp here. They couldn't find a way to make Death Knight or Windwalker better than Moonkin in this dungeon. And so we have Frag on the Moonkin, something we rarely see. Both teams going with some very large pull here to start.
What can you pronounce his name for us, Stratnos?
Oh no, Curry down for PIME already. That is not good news. A death right on the board early in the dungeon. That's bad for multiple reasons. It's going to cost him the 5 seconds, and now we're going to have to wait for him to do another 5 or 10 seconds of running back. Those sorts of slivers of time, it's unlikely you can afford even one, and especially more than one, against Echo ever.
I do think that the advantage here, though, is that this death that was incurred by Curry was... I would chalk this up as like just a 5-second penalty. It doesn't seem like it's going to cost them anymore. It's just Curry running back while the rest of the group is getting ready to pull these bow breakers. But Echo starting to pull ahead just by a few seconds, just due to the fact that they were able to click the gate a little bit quicker, get those bow breakers pulled just slightly faster. And PIME and Echo, very similar spot in the dungeon. Now you see engaging the Soul Cleavers, which are fairly dangerous, but on Necrotic and Bolstering, they need to make sure that they get down the bow breakers a little bit lower in HP before pulling it into the rest of the trash, because they don't want to stack up Bolstering. Now sitting at 40 stacks in Necrotic right now and dropping so incredibly low. Okay.
Wow. Well, yeah, Necrotic so scary there. He was underneath 20% HP for a very long time, but Boomkins, of course, do get to bring the force of nature, right? The trees that can taunt for your tank and provide them usually about 10 seconds of protection, basically, from enemies. And that's really, really good. I mean, any dungeon is valuable, but especially on Necrotic. And you can see Echo actually about half a pride now, maybe even 2/3 ahead of where PIME are. Both teams working on those manifestations of pride, and then they will be going into the boss, and we'll get to see the first Ashen Hallows of the dungeon here. It is a 4-minute cooldown, so you can count from when it comes out until they're going to get the next one, and that is going to be a big point of timing throughout this dungeon. We expect there will probably be 3 Ashen Hallows, 1 per section of the dungeon, maybe the second used in the maze rather than on the boss. But here's that first one coming out from Azalea right now. It's going to be representing a large amount of damage and a notable amount of healing as well. It takes a lot of pressure off. You know, you get all these extra globals to do more damage because all the healing is done incidentally by your Ashen Hallow being down. And it lasts for 30 seconds as well, so it's going to stay for the entirety of the burn phase that you can see Echo doing right now. And even though this is a tyrannical boss, Ingram Malik here is just entirely dead without any trouble whatsoever. And Zalia just blasting the boss.
Yeah. Also interesting to note, I do think the Holy Paladins also end up running. They do end up running that Hammer of Wrath legendary, and basically whenever they press Hammer of Wrath, it extends the duration of Crusade or Avenging Crusader, right? And so that's actually a pretty big deal in terms of like throughput as well. It won't be the biggest. It's not an insane healing throughput game, but it definitely is something that is valuable whenever you are a Venthyr Holy Paladin.
Yeah, I mean, that legendary also just increases the damage of the Hammer of Wrath, right? And that's just a huge source of their damage in those cooldowns. So, I mean, yeah, the build for damage on the Holy Paladins is incredibly strong. And then the challenge becomes, you know, keeping your tank and your group alive through these massive pulls, even while you're built for damage. And that is something that is incredibly impressive, that the teams are able to do that so reliably.
Yeah. On top of that, you also have things such as like the Shadow Priest playing Surrender to Madness. That's one of those things that Surrender to Madness is definitely the best talent on that row, on the tier 50 row, but it's really hard to play. But in an MDI scenario, you know basically when you basically know at all times like when the mob should be dying. So you have those Surrender to Madness timings absolutely to a T. And it's going to show with the Void Form uptime that is achieved by both Miraz and Curry.
Yeah, it's definitely a nice thing to see, actually, these specs that these players are able to deploy here. And I think that's something about Echo as well, is that, you know, if you have Echo switching 3 of their players to specs they don't play very much, that they haven't played in previous Cup weekends, they just look so good on those specs. Even if they're like their 8th or 9th best spec, right? Like Fragnus' 8th or 9th best spec is just so world class and can compete with anybody else in the world on that spec as well. And that's such a scary thing about Echo in these tournaments, is there's not, like, you know, we've talked about how some teams, there's these difficulties in finding ways to get everybody to switch to specs, and Echo will basically never have that problem. They basically can just tell anybody to play anything, and it will work out just fine. As you can see, actually, a good job here by PIME of keeping things relatively close. In fact, actually closing the gap perhaps a little bit here. And I think they've skipped that. Oh, no, they're bringing it in.
They
didn't
skip it. They're just letting it stack up. And okay, so that actually helps them, I think, kind of narrow the gap a little bit. So Echo started to like widen the gap at the very beginning with like the gate stuff and getting those bow breakers pulled a little bit. And I would say that the time that was achieved from that has been kind of consistent through the dungeon. PIME, with how they pulled that trash pack, as they knew that was going to be the thing that slows them down the most, and like getting the pride in later, that's going to help them catch up a little bit. Because you could see at the bottom, there was a 20-second differential from the first boss split between the two teams.
Yeah, both teams now on this mini boss here, the Plant Hydra. And they're both pulling some enemies through the wall here as well. Something you can do in a couple spots in the maze that gets you a little bit extra count, and it means that you avoid these kind of inefficient fighting things by themselves moments. So you can see Echo finishing off that pull and then scooting through the next little bit of the maze as well. There's a brief bit before you get in combat with the Pride, and you can use that to open the door and then go and bring the Pride into the next room.
Yeah, got to be really careful for bolstering, though. Bolstering here, especially whenever you're pulling trash through the walls into the mini-boss, if there's any mismatch in HP, that will definitely be amplified even further. But both PIME and Echo do a great job of getting the mini-boss down, like right as the rest of the trash ends up dying. And now PIME doing the exact same thing that we saw earlier, where they just don't engage the Pride, they immediately engage the trash pack. You see Dr. J actually doing an AoE combustion on the trash pack, as opposed to dumping any damage into the Pride, where Echo was taking it a little bit slower, where they would like DPS down the Pride to 50% before pulling the trash pack. There's advantages. There's definitely like a safety advantage from Echo's strategy, but PIME, they're behind, but they're trying to claw their way back as best they can.
Echo engaging Mistcaller now. There's the second Ashen Hallow of the dungeon coming out from Zalia. PIME also running on into the room there. You can see they're going to be pulling the boss as well. Looks like Wings was used by Igloo on the trash pull rather than perhaps here on the boss. Whereas on Echo, they've saved that for the boss. So that's a little bit of a difference in the strategy as well. That's let PIME close a little bit of the gap in terms of getting to the boss, but they're going to have a little bit less boss damage relative to Echo, where you can see Azalea just destroying the meters here.
Yeah, I mean, Igloo is going to have his damage available to him shortly. I think that this is one of those things that it's a 4-minute CD. They're probably only going to get one more in the rest of the instance as long as they use it within a reasonable amount of time. So I think that Igloo can fire it off at virtually any point on this boss. It doesn't really matter too terribly much as long as it's like before, because like the dungeon is, what is it, 14 minutes, right? It's like right at 14 minutes. So as long as he's able to fire it off before 9:30,
kind of like 9 minutes. Yeah,
9:30. Yeah, he should be fine to be able to get another one in the dungeon.
Yeah, it's definitely a tricky challenge to juggle your timings, especially as you keep practicing the dungeon and you get faster, and then you learn like, oh, this has knock-on effects back towards my earlier cooldown timings.
This is going to be the big point where PI is going to be able to catch up, or maybe Echo is even...
Maybe Echo.
Even Echo can just like widen the gap on their lead, potentially, depending on what's about to happen on the right side screen. So looking at their Mistcaller, they're going to get the final guessing game at 10%. You see that Volfin on the side is hibernated.
Yeah, here it
now
goes.
You do have Frag popping his CDs, trying to make sure... Oh, they're actually not even able to burn the boss all the way through.
I thought I saw a Convoke get cast and then like canceled.
Did he cancel it?
I'm not 100% sure, yeah.
So since Convoke is a channel, there is a chance that he canceled it with an on-use trinket. You can't macro on-use trinkets into Convoke, otherwise they'll bug out occasionally and just cancel it since it's a channel. Wow. Okay, but neither group gets Mistcaller down, unfortunately. But that would have been an absolutely massive time save, and PI would have been at the exact same point that Echo is now. But now Echo downing Mistcaller early, continuing to maintain that just few second lead, and let's see how close these teams are going to be in terms of splits. Okay, so it looks like PI was able to slightly narrow the gap, cutting 3 seconds off of their Boss 2 split, but they're still an order of 15 seconds behind right now.
Yeah, and that is just the first death going for them there. There's also the 5 seconds of death differential between the teams that'll be assessed at the end here. So 20 total seconds that PI are going to have to find. And even though they've been going slightly faster through the dungeon, there's not enough time left, right? They need more than slightly faster from this point. They're going to need a pull to work out particularly incredibly for them, or particularly badly for Echo, or they're going to have just some kind of incredible deployment of their damage. And it's so tough to have things go much better for you than they go for Echo, as Echo have made that pack look so easy and have already started now on their 80% pride. PI working on a similarly sized pack, but you can see Dr. J getting bounced around there. A lot of damage coming out. They need to be very careful with this.
Yeah, I think right now they're taking a really long time to be able to finish off this trash pack on the side of PI.
Look at the bolsters.
Okay, I think they're going to be fine with their bolstering, but Echo has already finished off their 80% pride, Dratnos, and has more count.
Yeah, Echo is in a commanding position at this point. Not enough that they can have like anything go wrong.
Yes,
but enough that if they can avoid having any deaths and avoid any like truly disastrous inefficiencies, they are now, I think, something on the order of 30 seconds in the lead from here. So and the dungeon has one pull and one boss left in it, as you can see. All the ads coming in. Ooh, now under a lot of pressure, Miraz fires off the psychic screen to try and create a little bit of wiggle room for now, but now he's at 40 stacks, and he's found a way to drop stacks. Immediately after the stacks are dropped, the lay on hands comes out from Azalea.
The trees.
The trees really relieving the pressure off of now. Like you said, I mean, huge Moonkin utility in a very, very dangerous moment there otherwise. PI now also doing the same one. Yeah, so PI have to execute this pull perfectly. I mean, really, the Echo here in they're such a good spot. They've already started with this boss. They're going to have their Bloodlust up in about 30 seconds, and Zalia will be having that Ashen Hallow in something like a minute, somewhere like that. Somewhere actually, something very soon. I think probably with his wings here, when they get that Bloodlust, he'll be able to deploy all of that damage. So
yeah, I think he's just holding it.
It's going to be massive. Yeah. And they're going to deploy so much burst here. You can see Zalia doing a respectable 2K right now. Will soon be ascending the damage meters, potentially with the help of Power Infusion and Bloodlust. You can see the boss in one of those channel phases. They're actually not going to kick it. They're going to decide to just, eventually kick it. But they left it channeling for a little bit there. it's an interesting decision because the longer it channels, the more often it's like not summoning ads and not doing any other mechanics. But it's a lot of damage out on your group. As you can see now with Lust available for Echo, they'll be pulling the trigger on that any minute now. They just gotta, you know, they know that they're gonna get one less, so as long as they press it at some point in the next 10 seconds or so, and there it comes out for Echo, they are gonna get full efficiency out of it. And everybody now will hopefully get all their cooldowns in there. Zalia fires off the Ashen Hallow and the Wings and will be rapidly climbing those damage meters. Right now he's in 5th place. Let's see if he can take Frag for 4th. Now in 2nd place on damage meters right now.
He hasn't fought the season yet. Leave him alone.
Zalia now up to the 2nd place position. Oh, Frag with the Moon and the Convoke though. Jumps into the lead on the damage meters as Tradova is falling so fast for Echo. It's really close for PIME as well. They have done huge damage here, actually higher damage on this boss than Echo. They closed the gap a little bit towards the end, but Echo have killed the boss first. They do need to get the last bit of count to end this dungeon though. Yeah. So you can see they're going to pull a bunch of trash, and as soon as they can kill like 2 of these mobs, they will be hitting their 100% threshold, and that will be Echo taking game 1 in the series. Wow, look at that. 13 minutes, 44 seconds. Woo.
All right, Echo stepping out with the, meta comp, taking their time to be able to perfect this strategy and doing extremely well there in our first game against PIME.
Yeah, man, that was, this is like previous seasons of Echo, right? Where a team will unveil a strategy and you'd be like, wow, that's so cool. Maybe they can actually compete with Echo with this strategy. And then Echo busts it out and just does it 20 to 25 seconds faster. It's like, man, what can you do to beat these guys when they're on top of their game? It's so disgusting. They're like the final boss of the MDI.
Most definitely. And, one of the biggest things we talked about yesterday was just how well PIME was able to just run over a lot of their opponents. We saw the same thing out of like Obey Alliance as well, how prepared that they were for the meta shift, how well they were able to practice up and perfect it as well, Titles. And then Echo just didn't have to play it all yesterday, and they got to practice everything that they wanted to, it looks like.
Yeah,
look at the tank diff. Look at the tank diff here.
Wow.
Now did 2K more DPS?
What the?
Huh? What was he playing?
He's playing Spirit Bomb.
He's playing Spirit Bomb.
Okay. Yeah, look.
Yeah.
Rentari's playing Charred Flesh, and now is playing Spirit Bomb.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we saw that out of Golden Guardians as well, didn't we, Dreadnoughts, the other day?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it seemed, the Spirit Bomb offensive strategy ended up being not the winner for them. Although, it's hard to attribute a win or loss to something like that.
Sure.
But, that it's a little bit more of a glass cannon strategy. And you saw now getting really low on health a lot of times throughout that dungeon. Very much in danger, very much sub 20%. Bailed out by those trees pretty often, though.
Dude.
And by his incredible ability to, kite right when he needs to and get as much damage as he can. And yeah, that's a huge amount of extra damage. That being said, I think PIME were in range. If they didn't have that early death, I think this would have been a game where it was, 2 or 3 seconds between the teams.
Now he's wearing some weird stuff. Okay, so he's playing Fallout Spirit Bomb, which is fine. He's playing Badge, which is the PvP 1 minute on use with Heraldry. So, and then he's also playing Cephas.
Yeah, that's
really.
So he's playing really an interesting build where Rentari's running the more like standard turtle style build with Burning Alive, Charred Flesh, Fire
Soul Legendary.
Yeah, Fire Soul Legendary. He's playing Hakar Trinket with the Heraldry as well. So, the Heraldry pretty standard, but the Hakar Trinket definitely better for more survivability, but it's necrotic, and that Hakar Trinket doesn't get great value on necrotic.
Mm-hmm. It's just diminishing in value because it's adding the absorbs as you're getting it. What do you think of that, Dreadnoughts?
Well, you can use it on pull, so that, you
Yeah.
can get a nice big absorb shield on pull. You can use it at kind of the low necrotic to stop yourself from taking too much damage. Gives your healer a little bit more time to do damage. That's valuable as well. But now has made this decision of just saying, you know what, we're playing this comp that is deciding to take all of the subtlety away and just go for everything that optimizes as much damage as possible. Let's carry that through to its logical conclusion, right? Let's make this comp all about the most DPS we can find, right? And we'll sort out finding a way to stay alive on this pull, right? If I need to, for 1 or 2 pulls in a dungeon, kite a little bit at the end of the pull or have trees come out, that is a worthy sacrifice to make for 2000 DPS, right? Because that's the whole thing that the theory is predicated on here, is just speed by damage.
And how is some of the soul binds? We talked about it a little bit throughout the week. Is the additions of like the soul binds and fully unlocking the trees making that much of a difference for Kyrian?
Not hugely. So Kyrian have gained the final bottom row for Pelagos, which is Let Go of the Past. It's basically just 3% magic damage reduction. For Vengeance Demon Hunters, you already have basically infinity magic damage reduction. Necrotic is magic damage, right? Necrotic damage is a bleed, it's physical. And you have, a conduit as well that gives you further magic damage reduction. So, I mean, it's a little bit, it's valuable for sure, but it's not one of those kind of game-breaking bottom rows, at least with the Pelagos tree. If they're playing something like Klaya, there's that like 5% crit node at the bottom that is pretty nice. But most people have been opting still for the Pelagos tree because it gives you double potency, double endurance, and there are 2 good potency and endurance conduits, at least, for Vengeance.
So what has been like that catalyst, you think, that's allowing these teams to be able to play even more aggressively as Vengeance tanks? Is it partially like the Boomy? What do you think?
So I mean, I think a lot of it is the trees and mists. I think also it's just, you just keep on getting better and better at the path, and you keep on coming up with ways to live that don't require you to use defensive gearing choices and stuff. I expect we'll see a little bit more defense built into the other side, even from now. Although, I mean, maybe he's just found a way to make this build work everywhere, because I think Mist is a little bit of a uniquely less tank damage intensive dungeon, although with Necrotic, that's a scary affix. The other side, though, we've got Inspiring and Storming both going on, both of which can contribute a lot of pain to tanks depending on the situation. So, I mean, it's going to be an interesting question to see whether or not he can carry this much damage forward through the rest of the series.
Yeah, most definitely. And looking at the next 2 dungeons, we've also been able to see Paladins in the past on the Zyro, notably for the other side. Just having that extra immunity for Hakar. We've seen how quickly teams like Obey Alliance have just been able to obliterate that boss.
All the bosses in here, right? The Paladins pretty much have Ashen Hollow up for pretty every single boss, including the final phase of Muzala. So any single target damage check on Tyrannical to the other side, which is usually a pretty dangerous dungeon, is just pretty much nullified by having that ridiculous single target output that the Holy Paladin brings. I think that the thing to really keep an eye on here on the other side, and what's going to determine our winner here, is how efficient they are with their trash pulls, because they're not going to have that Ashen Hollow to help them on most of the trash pulls. And also got to keep an eye on those death skips as well. They don't have a Shadow Meld available on the Paladin, so if anything goes wrong after they do one of their invisibility skips, you could see some issues with having to path back somehow, and that's going to pretty much spell disaster in this matchup because both of these teams are playing really well.
Most definitely. PIME has been setting the trend early on throughout the tournament, but Echo has been right there to adapt, mold their team to where they need to be, and it's been showing up for them first in that Mists. Now let's see, as PIME is down 1 right now, and the other side, if they'll be able to catch up.
I think it'll be interesting to see what groups end up skipping, especially since they don't have access to that Shadow Meld, like Zyro was saying. Yesterday we saw Obey Alliance in this dungeon with the Paladin, and Ashen Hollow, the Paladin, had to leap off the edge after the checkpoint was updated. So, I mean, there's definitely some things that you can do to be able to mitigate that. But, I mean, by and large, if you're running this, like, Holy Paladin Shadow Priest comp, your main tactic is to just kind of hold W through the dungeon and just, like, run it down.
I mean, you still got to do invis pot skips, right? You just can't do a skip where you're, like, mounted up, run through, and then meld. Except there is still that one skip they do. It just costs them a death and a couple extra seconds of coordination time, and potentially pulling that pack at the bottom of the stairs slightly in a different order than you'd like to. Most of the other skips, though, there are a lot of skips that are, in theory, Shadow Meld skips, where in practice you only really need your tank to get in combat, and the rest, they can pull them off to the side, and the rest of your group can just run on through without ever getting in combat. It's a little bit more finicky. It's nice to have access to that panic button Shadow Meld if you do get in combat, but if you practice it enough, these teams are able to make a lot of the same skips work without having that 5th Shadow Meld on the team, and I mean, that allows you to then open the door to something like the Holy Paladin, getting its huge benefits in terms of damage on all 4 of the bosses in a tyrannical dungeon like the other side, especially with bosses like Hakar, where damage is increasingly valuable as you get more of it. It saves you more and more time as you get extra points of DPS on that boss.
Yeah, and there's a lot of, I feel like, small advantages that you can really amplify into DOS. I'm interested to see what groups do at the very beginning here. Okay, so both PIME and Echo are skipping hard to the left, Whereas yesterday, from Obey Alliance, we actually saw them playing that trash pack.
Yes, so this is going to be, it's going to mean that they're going to fight that last trash pack with the boss. Now, Obey Alliance notably won in this dungeon while doing that extra pull, which is a time lost to do in theory, right? And so this might be an even faster run than Obey Alliance were able to create in that dungeon, which was a very impressive time as well. You can see Ashen Hallows coming out from both teams here. They are not going to be fighting the mask here, the spirit. They are just going to be killing this pull, hopping on their mounts, and heading on up here. So one of the benefits of doing it the way that Obey Alliance did is the patrol is a lot closer by the time you get there, and you can just take care of that mask right now rather than having to do it when you're coming out of the Ardenwold wing. But yeah, both teams neck and neck now, racing through this gauntlet, having to wait there for the red light as they run on through. Door of Shadows used as well by the Paladins, who are, of course, both playing Venthyr, and the Death Knights to sneak through there a little bit faster. It's nice that those kind of less mobile specs all have mobility options, right? Everybody has either Fae or Venthyr to move faster to teleport in this dungeon, except for the Demon Hunters, who just have incredible mobility by default.
Yeah, so 2150 is the benchmark that Obey Alliance set whenever they're playing versus Golden Guardians earlier. But yeah, I do think that they're going to end up doing like what is effectively one additional pull. Echo, they were able to melt that trash pack in the Ardenwold area just, I don't know, it seems like 5 seconds faster than
I mean, I think they got here maybe 5 or 10 seconds faster.
Yeah.
If anything, I think they might have lost a little bit of time relative, like Piami might have gained
I'll be honest.
a little bit of time here on this pull, but I mean, it's all milliseconds separating these teams right now. Both working on this Pride. It is slightly ahead in favor of Echo right now, but by no means is this thing, a serious lead at this point. This could easily evaporate as a result of a couple bad or good damage globals pressed here. Both teams on identical cooldown situations as well. We can see the entire same decisions made by both teams here. And one thing that's impressive about this as well is that this isn't this isn't a pathing that either team had seen in the dungeon so far. Although it's possible Piami might have seen Echo practicing this pathing while streaming, so that might be how they're on such a similar path here. Both teams now grouping up a bunch of enemies. It's going to include the Dragon for Echo as well, and for Piami, and they're going to go then use the Ring of Frost and pull everything on to the Urn area here. So the Urn actually lets you stun inspiring mobs as well.
Yeah. Exactly. That's exactly what I was about to say. Dr. J doing a really good job of dropping that Ring of Frost too, to try to get all the mobs brought in before they do end up clicking that urn. Inspiring won't break mobs that are previously CC'd. That's something that's also really important to note. Like, obviously, if the mobs are currently or like actively inspired, then they won't be able to be CC'd. But if you have that Ring of Frost down in advance, like if the mobs are already stunned by the Ring of Frost, then the mobs won't be broken out of that crowd control effect. So now Echo running straight down that pathway, make sure to not pull the Matriarch. Ooh, they proc their 40% pride and just like in the middle of this pull, Gratnos.
Yeah, now is under a lot of attack here. You can see the darkness pop by him there. That is indeed a more defensive plan that he's using here. He's got that darkness chest instead of the Cephas effect, so a little bit more defense, and that's going to serve him well as they're going to be able to survive this pull without having to commit too many things. I mean, a lot of stuff used here, but now they're going to have the Bloodlust and the Pride and the Ashen Hallow and soon the Wings and everything on Dealer here, this first boss, as we pass over the 4-minute marker. So yeah, during this Pride buff, they will be towards the end of it getting their Ashen Hallow back. And that will be pretty big value as Echo getting on in here, starting the boss while Piami still finishing off that Pride and the Trash Pull. Echo going to grab some of the extra little mobs, tagging them, and then running into the boss, and those mobs will come and join the party as well. There's the Ashen Hallow coming down from Zalia. All the cooldowns, Power Infusion deployed actually on Gingy, not on Zalia this time around, it looks like. Actually, I could be wrong. It could be on Zalia. Regardless, all the stuff being used by Echo, and you can see it's going to be Fragments and Zalia actually fighting for that top damage spot. Piami getting started on the boss as well. Very identical plan being used here.
I know previously people were actually using PI on the DKs on this boss because of Army. I know that was definitely one of those things that was used on the DKs, at least from Obey Alliance yesterday. I don't know what solutions people have determined. Okay, it looks like Clix is getting Click's got power infusion from on the side of PI. I couldn't tell if Frag got it from Echo or not.
Yeah, I thought I saw the animation on Gingy, but I can't be sure. Even though Gingy was 4th on damage there, he's still doing quite a bit. And 10k DPS, 4th place as that is, it's a tough spot to be in for sure. As Echo making their way now, mounting up and then using the transporter here. Now on pretty low HP, but we'll be able to heal while running here.
One of the interesting things too is if you mount up before hitting that portal, the portal duration time is cut effectively in half just by being on your mount whenever you do click that portal.
Yeah, it looks like these teams are able to cast their mounts while drawing Mojo as well.
Exactly.
And so it's entirely free to do that. And Piami have just done the same thing. Echo going to fire off the slow fall on now. He's going to then jump on over to the side here. Beautifully land on the platform, hop back on his mount. And he's going to be looking now to pull... Oh, did they skip the mask on the right? I think they might have. And what are they going to do here?
Yeah, they did.
Now he's going to pull both the Warlords and the 4-pack to the side while the rest of the team runs through. It's important that this is done with precision because, of course, Xaylia does not have a Shadow Meld. Now his Meld is available, though. He's going to fire it off, and he was the only person in combat, so that's all they're going to need. Xaylia is going to just press wings right now.
Hold on, wait, he pulled the Dental Drill.
Yeah, pull the Dental Drill and just face tank that first hit. Doesn't care about it at all.
Okay, no, that's intentional. That's intentional like that.
Okay. All right, yeah, so Piami has a different strategy for how to get through here. They're just going to run through and meld and update Graveyard, maybe? No, Igloo's already released, so I think that means that it must have been not the plan for Piami, because given that Igloo's released, I think that just means that a jump was missed.
Or, like, not getting a slow fall.
Yeah, they're all here now, but that's going to be a costly delay for them, and they're going to be able to get through eventually, but...
I mean, they were already 30 seconds behind. They really can't afford to be any further behind.
But the boss 1 splits here are certainly telling. Echo able to just squeeze extra damage, extra time out of their pathing so far, killing that first boss 35 seconds ahead of where Piami did. And that was before Piami's first death, which has now set them even further back, not just the 5 seconds, but the extra time of re-coordinating and running everything back.
Well, I mean, it's off of the ability to be able to do stuff and have the presence of mind to do stuff like, I don't know, have your healer randomly start tanking the Dental Drill before your tank even gets there, popping his wings on it. It's a way to save 5 seconds in a way that you would think is not super conventional. It's such an interesting strategy, but it does save you time.
Yeah, and Holy Pallies, that's one of their strengths. Plate armor users, they can take those attacks much more than you try and tell a priest to do that or whatever. I guess the priest just can do it from range and run away, but you get autoed by something, you're gonna die on a Clothy. Not the case though.
I mean, he just
for these paladins.
Walled and popped wings and just went in on it.
And Echo now gonna fire off their invisibility potions, run on over to the side, and they're avoiding these lubricators that we've seen some teams pull. Piami also, I mean, credit to Piami, they've caught basically back up to where Echo is in the dungeon. Oh, Xaylia down for Echo, and this skip is, catastrophic for Echo. They're now getting in combat here, and they need to try and find a way to recover, because this cannot have been their plan. They're now going to get Xaylia up, Fragment's going to res him, but everybody's so low on health, and I can't anticipate that this was what they were looking to have happen here. Maybe it was, maybe it's okay, maybe this was the plan, because they do have Ashen Hallow here, everything coming out, they're using all their cooldowns, they're using the Silent Sigil, but that certainly didn't look like how this pull was supposed to start, but they finished it. They've done a good job of finishing this pull. Maybe they weren't intending to commit the Hallow for this, though, but, I mean, it's committed on the side of Piami as well, so maybe this actually just went entirely fine for Echo. It looked weird, though. It looked like people were getting attacked while melding.
Piami! Lubricate go off.
Igloo at 15%. They're in so much trouble here. Clicks down. He's their only actual battle res as well.
That Lubricator's healing the full Dratus. It's going to be a wipe for Piami. This is so bad.
Yeah, Curry down, and they just don't have enough left now. They don't have enough kicks to keep things under control from this point. Dr. J is going to try and finish some of the mobs here, but they've got to know just how disastrous this is for them. And both teams we saw, it looks like something, things went a little bit wrong on that pull, and you can see just how much the paths diverged there. Just how much Echo was able to pull things back together, and even though things looked a little weird, again, I don't know exactly what it was supposed to look like at the start of the pull there, but they made it look just totally fine. They got into their pull, they got their res us off, and they were just able to recover entirely. Whereas on the side of Piami, 2 lubricate casts going off at the same time, and that basically cascaded into a full team wipe. They weren't able to recover from that at all. That is one of those things that Echo can just do so well. You can basically throw anything at them, and they will recover.
Well, the weird difference is that Echo was playing the safer strategy there. And so I was sitting here thinking, wow, Piami's strategy is a lot better. They skipped this 60% pride with invisibility potions. They're going to do this pull that Echo is doing, except without the prideful buff. Then they wiped, and this is like, all right, well, yeah, you would have saved 30 seconds that Echo had to spend killing that prideful, but now you have to, but like at the cost of it being less consistent and you wiping. So now Piami's at a monumental disparity now compared to what Echo did, just because Echo was playing a little bit safer at some times, which is honestly kind of weird to say, because you know it's normally Echo that does the not safe strategy where like they are going to be the people who normally skip that pride and normally do that pull without the prideful buff and save the extra 20 seconds there. But I do think that what Piami did there is technically on a time basis better, but unfortunately just weren't able to pull it off.
Yeah, I mean, Piami, to their credit, they're going to keep fighting this one out, and they've got to try and keep this thing close, but they're going to need something to go horribly wrong for Echo if they want to make their way back into this game. Piami are going to get started off with that same pull that killed them, giving it another try here, and they've got that prideful buff this time, so they should be able to take that down. But Echo already almost done with this boss before Piami have even gotten to it, and 25 seconds of death differential as well that Piami are going to have to overcome. As you can see, Lubricate Cast actually going off for Piami, so they're going to need to battle through that. Clicks repeatedly dropping sub 10% health, but they are able to just barely keep everybody alive. Ooh, that looks even still so sketchy for Piami. They've gotten that pack done, and they're able to make their way through, but Echo's still on their plan. Things have really not gone that wrong in any kind of destabilizing way for the pathing for Echo. All their cooldowns are still going to be when they expected them to be, and they're going to run through the rest of this dungeon. Let's see how they decide to execute the skip to the next part of the dungeon, because this is something that we've seen the Holy Paladin be a little bit of a liability for, is this particular skip. This one is so traditionally a 5 Shadow Meld skip. So we may see Xaylia just jumping off and then releasing once the checkpoint gets updated. That's the kind of thing that we might see out of him. Let's see what they're doing here. Mira's leading the way, walking on through. The rest of the team here as well, just behind him. Mira's actually casting Vampiric Touch here, so they are just going to fight this Enraged Spirit right now. They've decided to fight this thing by itself. Yeah, so this is maybe a little bit slow, but perhaps one of the things they're thinking is, this is an Enraged Spirit that has cost them...
Oh, Jay goes down for Piami.
Oh! I mean, they've had... So Echo has had trouble on the boss before. They had a wipe on Wezala, or not a wipe, but a lost map as a result of not being able to do all 4 platforms. And all 4 platforms gets way harder when you have any of those spirits still walking around. Yeah, Piami in so much jeopardy here. They're going to fire off another battle res, but now they don't have any more battle reses at their disposal. Echo are going to... Okay, so Echo found a way, though, to do this without Xaylia dying, is the cool thing about what they've done here. Xaylia is just going to run around, and they're going to do the exact same skip in.
Dude, very unfortunate series of events for Piami here. I don't know what they're dying to on the Mana Storms. It's kind of weird.
That's a full team wipe while the boss is still alive. So they're going to have to run back, and that is basically the worst possible time you could imagine wiping to that boss as well. They had done like 90% of the damage they needed to do, and all of that is going to be erased by the boss resetting. So they're going to have to run back. They are now 60 seconds behind in death differential. They are something like a boss and a half behind in terms of placement in the dungeon. I mean, this is something, it's something on the order of 5 to 7 minutes now that Echo are in the lead by. It's such a brutal position for Piami to be in. But you can see they immediately release and are immediately running back, and they're just going to keep on working their way through the dungeon. This is important. I mean, as much as it might seem like it's an insurmountable challenge for them to overcome to catch back up to Echo here, it is not impossible that Echo could have something go wrong on Wezala twice, right? It's in the range of, we're talking fractions of a percentage point of it happening. But if you're Piami and you don't play for that fraction of a percentage point, you're just losing out on some chance that you have here to win the series. And so Piami doing a good job here of getting back to that boss, giving it another go, and their adaptation, whether or not they're able to finish this dungeon 6 minutes slower than expected versus 7 minutes slower, could absolutely make the difference if things go massively wrong for Echo.
Yeah, so, I was laughing because I watched Mirez cast Power Infusion on somebody, and then immediately go and click the urn. Just he had his Night Fae popped, he had his Power Infusion popped, and this man is actually just sitting there channeling the urn the whole entire time. You're just like, oh no, man, that's very unfortunate.
That is the Night Fae support priest lifestyle that Mirez is playing in this dungeon, right? And basically, every decision that Mirez is making is built around optimizing the rest of the team, and then his own damage and stuff comes whenever everybody else is taken care of. And so he gets to do all his stuff on his own time after everybody else's combustions and wingses and stuff are taken care of. Armies of the Dead, giving them all the support they might need. And wow, look at this. Echo found a way. So they're going to pull this High Priest onto the boss here and take care of it in addition to everything else with all their big offensive cooldowns here. That's going to get them a little bit of extra count and help them take care of an awkward inspiring mob without making any pull harder or adding an extra pull to their dungeon.
Okay, so interestingly enough, you did see Echo not do what we actually saw from Obey Alliance yesterday on Hakar. They actually just murdered Hakar. Clicks dies for PI. I didn't see exactly what happened to him, but that's very unfortunate for them. But so something that you can do on Hakar is if you use damage reduction effects whenever the Blood Barrage is going off, and like massive damage reduction effects. I'm talking like Dispersion plus Fade kind of thing for Mirez. And like I'm talking like an AMS and then Bubble and Ice Block. You're able to make sure that Hakar actually doesn't get any shielding from the Blood Barrage, and then immediately will end up canceling that. We saw that from Obey Alliance yesterday, and that was something that saved them a pretty significant amount of time on that boss. Echo ends up killing the boss in what is effectively the same amount of time, but they do also... It's a little bit different of a strategy. Now Echo here, finishing off one of those final trash packs that they have to be able to deal with. They do have that one little bit of trash that we know that they're going to pull into the bottom 10% of Muezala, but the biggest mistake that I think Echo can make here is not being able to one-phase the images. I think that even without one-phasing the images, they are so far in the lead. Piami's many wipes in this Mechagon Wing have been...
I mean, it's unclear whether even Piami will necessarily be able to kill the Mana Storms here. Clicks has been dead though for a long time, and they still have a lot of health to get through on that boss. They're running a little bit dry on damage, although I guess they have infinite mana by virtue of the Holy Paladin being their healer, so that's not going to be an issue for them. But you can see Echo have pulled Muezala here, and I mean, yeah, things would have to go so incredibly wrong so many different times here for Echo to lose this. This dungeon has looked great for Echo, whereas for Piami, just things have really gone off the rails in this Mechagon Wing. And I mean, it's a wing where there's a lot that can go wrong, and basically all of it has for Piami, and it is a rough spot to be in. But Echo blasting away on Muezala, that moment of whether or not they're able to take care of those ads is going to be coming up soon. This Master of Death cast, I think once it finishes, we'll be going pretty much straight in to that Shadow Reality phase, and we'll get to see, I think it'll be Mirez who will be the most in danger of potentially not being able to finish off his ad. Now and Zalea will totally be fine. They're a Holy Paladin and a Vengeance Demon Hunter. They each could probably do it maybe by themselves. His. But Mirez will have Surrender to Madness available to take care of his, and that is a huge damage increase as well, and it'll allow him to cast while moving, so he can survive this extra damage here. You can see the Void Torrent coming out, and yeah, he's got some damage going. He does need to move a little bit here. Hopefully we'll see if this thing can actually die in time. He not only needs to kill in time, but he will also need to channel on the totem.
He looks like he didn't even pop Surrender. He just went into Void form. You saw him cast Void Eruption there.
Yeah, he's able to get it done, and he's able to get the channel off. Nice job by Mirez there. Yeah. In fact, one of the, not all of the, he wasn't even the last person to get their totem done. But you can see Muezala now, he's going to grip everybody to this last platform, now making it here early, getting in combat with those cultists early as well. Getting started there rather than getting gripped into the middle, and they are getting everything going all at once.
Did Gingy rip Threat on it? Gingy looked like he ripped Threat, I think, on all the mobs.
Yeah, he's fine, though. He hasn't practiced Cauterize, and he hasn't had to use his Ice Block yet. He will be about to fire off the Combustion, and these mobs are basically already dead at this point already. Huge damage coming out from the group. providing, I mean, they're just murdering those ads. And Gingy is not even doing an AoE combustion. He is just throwing those Pyroblasts right into Muezala, not worrying about finishing off these last couple enemies there. Those enemies are just taken care of by the incidental cleave and that Shadow Priest cleave as well. And the Death Knight, they are able to just get everything killed. Huge damage coming out from Echo. The Ashen Hallow now on single target is just going to annihilate the last couple percentage points of Muezala here.
So the fastest DOS that we've seen this weekend is the 2150 that we saw from Obey Alliance. Echo is going to be somewhere in the 2030 range, so about a minute 20 faster than what we saw from Obey Alliance. Maybe like 2050, so maybe only a minute faster, but even then... I do think that that's compounded by Obey Alliance's like first pull versus Echo doing a lot of that trash into the boss.
Gingy ends up going down here in a death that is going to make this slightly less of a perfect run from Echo. It's not going to be enough to keep them or to bring them over that 21-minute marker, though. A full minute faster than we've seen out of anybody so far. Incredible work by Echo, securing a fantastic finish and 2-0ing PIME to advance to the Cup Finals.
Wow, Echo just absolutely putting on a clinic here in the other side. And you're talking about a Tridos about how quick they were, but I'm still kind of baffled that they just sat there and killed the Enraged Mask solo by itself.
Yeah.
And then we're still so fast. Like, that just takes forever. You think of, like, why would they ever do that? But it was so ridiculously fast in so many other areas.
I think they skipped one of the masks still. I think they skipped the one on the left-hand side by, like, slow falling past it, where everybody else, like, pulls that with the Raptor pack. So I think that is how they save the time, but they still need to count from one of the masks. And so they just grabbed that one at that time to maybe also to buffer so that there were 4 minutes between those two bosses and they could get Hallows on both.
And it's back. It's ironic. They got the big damage differential here on the tanks.